Do you ever wish you can just say what turns you on without shame, or even better, build a whole life around it? Well, that's what I got to unpack with Amy Vorpole. She's an actress, a comedian, and she hosted a super fun summit last year that I got to be a guest on. So I'm going to share the interview we did. Amy is hilarious. She's super thoughtful and just totally fearless. So go check her out at amyvorpal.com. I'll have a link for it in the description, but enjoy our conversation. You're gonna love this one. Welcome to the Dom Sub Living podcast.
The first question I'm asking everyone is, in what ways are you horny on Maine?
Oh my gosh, so many ways. And I'm slowly getting more and more better at it, but just trying to be myself and unapologetic, making no excuses, making no apologies. But yeah, in my personal life, that means just nonchalantly dropping what I do, even on my main accounts. And wherever, I go, I tell my, friends and family like, "Oh, I went to this dungeon this weekend." But yeah, and then even in my business life, I really don't hide what my business is or what my niche is. So just living horny on Main.
All right. Yeah, the real deal. I was gonna ask, like, do you tell your parents? Do you tell your parents what you do?
I I kind of tease it a little bit. I do think my mom knows. I think I've told her that I run a relationship business, a relationship account, but that, it's been featured in Cosmo and InStyle. And so she's proud of me, but I think she knows like it must be a sex thing because she's not telling me every single detail. So I'm kind of going at her pace as to what she asks, and that's what I share. But yeah, a lot of my other friends, I'm just totally open with it.
That's amazing. Yeah, even hosting the summit, it has been very freeing for me in the friend circles and with my mom as well. So I can kind of relate on some level. So first of all, for those who don't know, what what is kink? How are you defining kink?
So kink is just basically anything that is not mainstream. And so usually we're talking about sex, but kink is really just anything that's not like vanilla. It's just like the opposite of vanilla. So it's like this huge umbrella term that can encompass things like BDSM and bondage and even polyamory and things like that. But it's just kind of these taboo things that people don't tend to talk about it. But I bet a lot of people are practicing kink and they just don't even know it and want to admit it.
Yes, I agree with that. And so are you specifically in the category of Dom sub kink? Can you talk a little bit about that, about what that entails?
Yeah. So, for being a dominant or submissive means just basically being the dominant or submissive one in a relationship or in a power exchange. So, this doesn't even have to be in a relationship, it can just be during scenes, even like strangers you meet at play parties and just having fun. So, it's just that power exchange where one partner is like the top and kind of taking the lead, and the other one is the bottom. And so what I do is, so personally I'm a submissive and I have a dominant. And so but for work I teach other people how to make BDSM like an actual lifestyle and have these like really meaningful dom sub relationships.
Awesome. I want to back up for a second because you said play parties and you said scenes. And so, I mean, I'm coming from this as quite a bit of a neophyte here. So will you, what would a play party entail? And then I think I can, do the math and tell you what a scene is, but I want to hear from you.
So a play party is kind of more of like, again, like the umbrella term, s- sex can usually be happening or just play in general, like maybe spanking and paddling. It's just where, a group of people get together and they just want to play whatever kind of play that involves. It doesn't have to necessarily mean like swapping partners, although that can happen, but it's just a chance to be with like minded people and play around other people, have people either, watching you or you're watching other people. And then for a scene is actually more formal, and it can happen just like one-on-one, or you can have a group scene, or people can watch your scene. But scenes are in BDSM, like they have like a beginning, middle, and end. And so it's a way to explore that power exchange in a defined space and time, and bring all, the toys and gears that you want to have or not have, and just explore it that way.
Amazing. So you are talking about this as it can be very, for lack of a better term, tame. Um, on that side of the spectrum, will you go on the other side of the spectrum and define like how intense it could get?
It can get, well, so yeah, it can get extremely intense, where we're talking things like consensual non-consent, like things like rape play even, doing, like really, what do you like, extreme kinks that can be very risky and dangerous, things like fire play and all that. But then there's the whole other end of the spectrum, because we don't want to scare people either.
No, no,
This is
yeah.
supposed to be fun, BDSM and kink, it's supposed to be fun. So, you never want to think like, oh, I have to get into that. BDSM and Dom sub dynamics, it's really just that power play, one person being a top, one person being a bottom. So it can even manifest itself in even just like maybe holding your partner down during sex, or using a blindfold, things like that. So it definitely doesn't have to go to that huge extreme. It can be, something really, really light.
You thank you for that. That's amazing. Fire play. I've never heard of that. Wow. So the other thing I picked up on is that you said you coach it being a lifestyle. And so how does that look? Because it reminds me of the way people talk about diets, where it's like, I'm going to be like really hard and intense on this diet, but that's not going to last. Like I want it to like extend further. So what is that? What does that metaphor look like with dom and sub kink? Like how do you make something like that a lifestyle? Do you embody it? Is it an energy? Are you like playing a character, but it's you? Or yeah, can you explain
No,
that?
that's a good, I'm glad you caught up on that, because so it kind of can go both ways. So it is, like you said, making it like your identity, something that you embody and do. And, so if you're a dominant, that's something, a role you take really seriously. You try to embody that and become more dominant even outside the bedroom. And the same with submissives, trying to have that servient attitude outside the bedroom, but then also making it a lifestyle, meaning you take the kink outside of the bedroom and make it part of like your 24/7 dynamic. And so this can have lots of different forms. So like for instance, like me and my partner, we're 24/7 dom sub. And so even outside the bedroom, I will refer to him as his titles, like, daddy or sir, and, be very serving of him. Um, and, we have our little, little things and little rituals, like I wear my collar like all the time. But for like people on the outside, they don't really know what's going on. They don't pick up on it. But so that's kind of what I mean when you make it a lifestyle, that it becomes your identity, but then you can also take it out of the bedroom and enjoy that dynamic, even in the everyday stuff.
That's amazing. I had some people when I was asking, I was like, oh, I'm going to interview Alesandra. They had a question of like, what are your kinks? And we're getting a little taste of it, but do you have anything specific that is, true to you?
Yeah. So I'm definitely into age play, which is like embodying more of like a younger dynamic. And that's why, I call my partner daddy. And so that's the DDLD is like daddy dom little girl dynamic. So I'm really into that. And also, like I'd already mentioned, consensual non-consent. So, and that's I kind of frame it as like I like it even when I don't like it, and I want it even when I don't want it, type of thing. But I am a sucker for pain. I am a huge masochist. So, like all things pain, I'm all into that.
I love that
Even
you're
some
giggling about this. This is like, it is. I mean, but seriously, like it is about pleasure, right? Like this whole thing, it's like we're treating it very lighthearted because uh, it is light. Like it is what you wish, it is your desire. So you're like, yeah, I love pain, haha.
yeah.
But it's dichotomous a little bit with the
Yeah,
words.
and that's what's so neat about opportunities like this where we can talk about it, because we don't really get to talk about these things in society. It's very hush hush, and but a lot of people are doing it. So it's like bizarre that so many people are doing it, but like no one can talk about it. It's like such a secret. So,
Yeah.
yeah, those are some of my kinks. Like I said, I love pain, degradation, and it's all consensual, So even though like you said, we're talking about pain and it's like all these negative things, but it's enjoyable, and it's enjoyable for my partner who on the flip side likes to inflict pain, and so we're both getting what we need out of it.
Gosh, that's amazing. That's so cool. God, I love hearing about that. I also I I feel, and correct me if I'm wrong, but maybe it's just in my little bubble here in Los Angeles. I feel like this whole Dom sub kink, or anything like that, it's getting more zeitgeisty, or people are pushing the limits. Like you said, a lot of people don't talk about it as much. Same as finances. Weirdly enough, I'm drawing
Mhm.
that line, but it does feel like it's getting more zeitgeisty. Is that true, or am I just perceiving that and that's the life I'm living?
Well, I think so 50 Shades of Grey, the movie, the books, made it more mainstream and out in the open. Like talking about like my mom has read the books. And so she knows what things like, a BDSM contract is, and safe words and limits. So it's becoming more of, the everyday language. People know these things. And so I think what happens is when you kind of have your almost like your hobby or the special thing that was just special to you, and kind of like people take it over, then it feels not cool anymore. Like you're not the you're not the cool kid anymore. So it's like everybody's doing it now. So then that's when I think then it's like we try to find like a new way to make it more unique and make it ours, and so that involves pushing the boundaries even more, and just finding, different ways to be, so it's not just like, the mainstream anymore.
Yeah, you were the OG. You were into kink before it was cool.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
on the 50 Shades of Grey situation, I just have to tell you I did see the movie, and there was this one line that stuck out to me where she's like signing the contract of like what she's consenting to, and she goes, okay, I'm down with clamps, but what's a butt plug?"
Like
And that always, I was like, wait, no, because a butt plug is self-explanatory. Like the math
Mhm,
is done
like
for you. Even if you don't know what it is, like your best guess is going to be correct. But a clamp, I was like, but she knows what clamps are, and that's, I think, more esoteric. And I just have always like, it's always stuck. Like where the clamps go? Why are we clamping things? To me, I was like, that line is backwards. I don't know why I had to tell you that, but that's a thing in the movie. And
but
I think I'm
yeah, so
telling you,
things like butt plugs people are talking about now because of that movie, and
yeah.
yeah, you would think that was self-explanatory, but
Okay, I'm glad. I think I told you just because I wanted your validation that was
yeah.
a silly line, and it pinged me. It's like, hey, one of these
Yeah.
things is very, very exactly what it sounds like. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, this is a curiosity for me versus, and then some of the audience, some of my audience had this question too. How do you determine like where you fall on the spectrum of dom and sub. And like if you don't know but you're curious, like is it I guess I guess like anything else, like when you choose a noun that is your identity, it feels like it's permanent and that you have to be this forever and then go all the way and be very deep on it. But is there a way to figure it out or experiment and then choose?
Yeah, and it's like I tell people like don't overthink it. It's not set. I know it's not set in stone and you probably do have some kind of idea where you're leaning. Like I said, we've already, even if you're vanilla and you're having sex, there's already, the roles of like top and bottom where someone kind of takes the lead and someone's kind of already in the submissive role. So you kind of already know how you like that. And it could be you like both. And so in that case, it would be like you'd be called like, what's a switch? That's what we call it. But I just tell people don't like overthink that you have to put yourself in this box. Just really explore the different roles, experiment with the different kinks, learn about them, research them, and you'll find different things that resonate with you and that you're drawn to. But again, like I always say, this is supposed to be, fun. So no one's gonna, the BDSM police aren't gonna knock down your door and say, like, let me see your degree that you are a submissive and you have this many years of experience and and it says here that you switch what you're not allowed to do that. It's like there's no BDSM police, so it's all about just having fun and exploration. And the more you explore and research, you'll naturally kind of be drawn to the role that you like.
Amazing. Great. While you were talking, I was thinking, like where, so a client comes to you, where do you have them start? Like, is there an intake form? Do you determine on the go? Are you walking them through? It also, sorry, I'm going to piece this in here too. It sounds like improv. Um, it sounds like improv or structured improv, almost like I play Dungeons and Dragons, and a lot of the audience does too. So there's structure in that, and you're also playing a character on some level. Correct me if I'm wrong. And then also
Yeah. Well,
answer
I
the
mean,
question about where do you start?
some of it is role playing, and that is part of it. I think, when we were talking about more like lifestyle, that's when it becomes more of like just who you are. But there is definitely role playing, like, the whole boss and secretary dynamic or a master and a slave dynamic and things like that. But if someone, comes to me and they're just like totally like, I don't know what I am, what I like, I will usually, ask them like, well, what have your relationships been like in the past? What are some things that, in the bedroom that you liked in the past? Like, what are some fantasies that you have? A lot of time our fantasies can be very telling of, what we really want in life and in bedroom. But yeah, just like we have like lists that like different kinks, and so we encourage people to go through the different lists of kinks and write down like no, I'm not into that at all, kind of like the 50 shades of gray thing, where you go down, are you into butt plugs, are you into clamps, and it's like some of it may be like, well, I don't know, I've never experienced that. And so it's like, well, then would you be open to experiencing it? And kind of just going down the list. And lots of also journaling about just what do you want out of a relationship? What do you want out of your partner? What kind of role are you hoping that they will take? But yeah, definitely like the more people get into it, the more they're exposed to it, over time they do kind of find their footing.
I mean, that's so cool. Do people who come to you, do they need to have like a partner who will go, play with them, or do you provide that on? I guess it wouldn't be necessarily in person, but actually, yeah. How does that work? How does your coaching work?
So it's like half and half. So about half the people that come to me, they already have a partner. And so, and then with that, either one of two things, they just want to like improve their relationship, improve their dynamic, improve their scenes, or they have a partner that there's maybe some resentment and they're wishing their partner would kind of do more. And so I kind of work with them on that and how to like encourage their partner to get more involved. And then there's the other half of people that are like basically single. And so you can do BDSM by yourself. You can do like there's even like self bondage ties and things like that. But I think to really enjoy it, you do need a partner, even if it's not a long-term partner, even if it's just a partner for scenes. And so I do coach on like how do you find kinky people in the world? We don't have a sign that says, we're kinky. How do you find kinky people? How do you find them on the dating apps? Which are the best dating apps to find people? How do you find dungeons in your area and play parties and things like that? So,
Oh,
yeah,
you've
so
got
that's,
you handle that. That's part of your coaching too, is like how
yeah,
to I guess extrovert that.
yeah, yeah. So, yeah, just definitely meeting people where they're at and what they need. And that's kind of why I love what I do because every, student and client is different. They have their own issue that they're struggling with, their own thing they're trying to overcome. And there's not a whole lot of places that they can go for things like this. So I love that I can, offer a way to make it less taboo. So people, can be who they want to be and, make it easy for them. And sometimes, within our community and within our courses, sometimes people who are single, they end up meeting another student and, turns out they're in the same area or whatever. And so
Oh my
yeah.
gosh,
So
you're
I
an
have played
accidental match.
matchmaker in that. Yeah, I have played matchmaker in that way before. So
That's
yeah.
so cute. Okay, awesome. If okay, yeah, that is so so helpful because yeah, I was imagining what that could be like. But so you run the gamut, advanced all the way beginner, like you're just yeah, you
Yeah.
help them all. Okay.
Yeah. Just trying to meet people where they're at. Because a lot of times when people are more advanced, it's very interesting. Like what they need help with is usually not like no one ever comes to me and says like, I need to learn how to do like this intricate bondage tie, or I really need to learn
Like the
how.
mechanics of it.
Yeah, it's like they just like, they think, I don't have a lot of confidence during scenes and I'm not sure, how to build my confidence. Can you help me with that? Or, I have a partner and they're kind of vanilla and I want to introduce kink to them. And even a lot of the veterans who are really masters in their skills, they're struggling with their own mindset issues too and things like that and trying to navigate that and just stay active in the BDSM community and yeah, so it's neat meeting so many different diverse people.
Do you have any stories of client breakthroughs that you feel comfortable sharing or any specific like instances where you're like, wow, this was, I don't know, any version of interesting?
Yeah, so like the biggest one like I'm like the most proud of, I had a couple that they were like on the brink of divorce. Like they had tried everything, couples counseling, years of therapy, and just nothing was working. And they both knew that they were kinky and wanting more in the bedroom, but it was just like they were bunting heads like all the time, couldn't, figure out like how to make it work, the logistics of it. And there was just so much resentment built up in this marriage. And so they had came to me and we kind of like developed like, well, what could like an actual like system almost look like where you're, doing scenes on the weekend, you're afterwards talking about these scenes and what you would like better and what would the roles look like if there was no resentment and how can we work towards those roles and how can we incorporate S&M and pain play and all that because pain is such a great way to like get out your frustrations, both for the person receiving it and the person giving it. it's a great way to, you know, handle conflict sometimes in a marriage or in a relationship when it has those boundaries. And so, with time, they were really able to get to a good place. And they were just like, we can't believe we went from like, this is our last straw, if this doesn't work, then we're calling it quits, to like, wow, this is the best our relationship has ever been. And so that one always makes my heart, happy. But yeah,
Wow, that's
but I know,
incredible.
but just stories of people saying like, I never have been able to talk about this stuff with other people, and to be able to find like a community, a group of people who we can just talk openly about these things is just, so life changing, and it goes back to, what you're doing is just, not caring what people think anymore.
Oh, I
And
still care
yeah,
what people think,
yeah,
but
yeah,
I'm doing it regardless. Yes.
yeah, yeah. But like, But knowing, like, that you're still gonna be okay, and that you're happy. And, for some people who have never gotten to experience that, have never gotten to experience, like, being their truest self, that's just such a beautiful thing to witness and have a part of.
Gosh, yeah, you are truly of service. Like that is what you're about. I totally get it. Like seeing it through your lens is I mean, objectively, you're like Dom sub kink coach. Wow, like that. Wow, like that's a lot. And then you just sink in and you're like, dang, no, but this is it's authenticity. You're just coaching authenticity.
Mhm.
And like you said, confidence too. So it actually is really healthy. And the way I'm seeing it is like another form of therapy. Just like, this is who I am. How do I do it safely?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And there is, skills that I teach, and, things like, the pain play and how to do it safely, because you do need to be safe. First and foremost, you have to be safe. So, when you're using things like, floggers and all the other things, it's like there's a way to do it safely. So I do teach that, but once you got kind of like the foundation, it really is just like having to conquer your mindset issues that comes into play.
Oh, that's so cool. Um, and now now I know actually I've heard of it. I have a friend who is a professional. She's a dom. Can you talk about that? Like creating, so there is, relational, I guess, with your partner, but then there's also a whole community where this is also your career and people, like you said, single people, they might, well, maybe not even single people, just people might pay to have that service. What is that like? Do you coach those people too, like
Yeah,
professionals?
because and I have actually lots of friends who do that kind of work, and I've been able to direct my students that want it to them, because BDSM is so like beneficial in so many ways, like, psychologically, if you're, the submissive, then you're able to really just let go. There's a lot of, mindfulness. You're in your body, you're focusing on serving the other person and obeying the other person. You're, focusing on, the pain and things like that. It's just like almost like a spiritual experience type of thing. And just, a lot of psychological benefits, that psychologists are finally starting to understand. So it would make sense now that we have providers that can offer that as a service. So if you want to see a dominatrix, or, a male dom, even, that you can go and do that. And it is just, you know, in a scene context, although some of them do like outside the bedroom stuff where you can go on dates and things like that. And it's all that like that power exchange. And just it's just like any other business. So, money is exchanged. Sex is usually not involved, although like I can't speak for every dominatrix. Some do sex work with this, but usually there isn't. That it's just, a lot of times, I know this is like really stereotypical, but like a lot of times when people are in like powerful positions with work, or they're just always, at a job, or they're having to tell people what to do all day, it's like they kind of want to break, and they want to be bossed around and serve someone. And so it's, a chance to get all that out, and, makes them a better person. And so it is, a valuable service that they're providing. And so they do get paid. They should get paid. They should get paid a lot. I have, like I said, friends that do this, and I'm always recommending them. So yeah, and it's just like any other service. If you went and got a massage and you paid for that, or if you went and got a haircut and paid for that, they're just offering a service.
Great, great. Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Mhm.
In those relationships, are I know about safe words and consent, and then there's this other. But I haven't heard, or maybe you know more. An audience member asked me to ask you about nonverbal safe words, or is there? Do you teach around the energy of that, or how do you even coach that?
Yeah. So let's say you like are in a situation where you can't speak. So you can't say a safe word. So like maybe you have like a ball gag, or like a hood on or something, or you're just in a situation where you can't speak. So maybe you're even in public, even. And so you would need like a nonverbal safe word. So if you're doing something like, um, like with a gag or something, you can do something like where you hold a bell in your hand. And then if you need to stop for whatever reason, then you would drop the bell. And so then your partner hears that. You can also, use hand signals. You can tap your partner, or, a certain look if you're in public, but it's just so that way it still keeps it safe. Because like even the extremes of like choking is very common, for people who are into kink and BDSM, and you can't say a safe word when you're being choked. And so nonverbal cues are, if you're going to be involved in those things, then you definitely need a safe word that's nonverbal in that way.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. Um, what So you talked about it at the beginning a little bit with your family and that you're fairly open, you're going at your mom's pace as far as revealing. But what has the journey been like for you? Again, this is, getting hornier and hornier on main, but where did you start and how did you, I mean, did you experience any stigmas? I'm trying to see, are you a real person? Did you ever have insecurities and care what people think,
No,
or have you always,
no.
yeah, okay, okay.
Yeah, it was definitely a journey starting out. And also too, just being totally honest, like I have kids too. So there was that like, oh, we were afraid like what if our kids get taken away, because of this. But also just, having those insecurities. And so in the beginning, like I would post stuff, but like I would never show my face like ever. And that was kind of like my rule in the beginning, like I'm going to do this, and but I'm not gonna show my face. And then after a while, like, I just started thinking, like, who cares? Like, because like, how like Instagram and Facebook is, like, everything's integrated anyways. Like, Facebook's recommending, people that you just sat on a bus with, like, oh, you guys should be friends because they know you're in the same vicinity and things like that. So nothing is ever truly private. And so I kind of just figured like there's so much stress in trying to hide who you are and what you do. And like, what would it look like if I stopped having to hide? And so I just started showing my face more, started using, my voice more and doing things like this. And yeah, I saw like nothing super bad happened. So like of course I would get like comments, and even from like, friends that would maybe like unfollow me, but I nothing like horribly bad happened. And I just thought like I just feel so much better being, who I am. And if they don't like it, like, oh well. And you know, some people do think like BDSM is morally wrong. And I've come to realize too that like if people are vocal about things like that, it's usually because they're self-projecting or they have some kind of skeletons in their closet that they're trying to direct the attention away from. So, you know, just over time, I've kind of just like wised up and learned those things. And then once I was just like, I don't care anymore. And then, you know, I realized, well, the world still goes on. So
Amazing. God, what a testament. Did it like when you decided, I mean, at some point were you like fully all in and did that have an effect on your business it sounds like it might have been in a positive way, but
yeah, in a positive way, because I would have people that would say, like, almost like they thought I was a scam because I wasn't showing my face and things like that. And I would just say, well, I'm trying to protect my identity and I do have kids. And, but once I just started being more out there, like, yeah, like I became obviously just more personal just because people saw that I have a face. And more people, you know, wanted to work with me. And then just also other like partnerships opened up with other people. And you know, so it did get easier that way, but, you know, obviously I, you know, like most women in the world, I have self-esteem issues. So it's like now I'm not so much worried that people are going to find out I'm like kinky into BDSM. I'm like worried like, "Oh, what if they don't think I'm pretty?" or, you know.
oh my God. Oh no, even you, they got you
Yeah.
too. Society got you. Oh gosh.
Yeah, so it's just the normal stuff now.
Oh my gosh. Oh, well said. Just the normal insecurities. Yeah, because do you still get a little antsy, or maybe not anymore, every time you're going live or you hit post or something like that?
Yeah, but again, it's like it's not because like, oh, what if like my mom sees this or what if a friend sees it's just more like, you know, because there's trolls out there too, you know, and so it's like I worry more about that. And so but yeah, I don't know, like it does get better, you know, but it's still like just the same, like, what are people gonna think, you know?
Yeah. Oh, that's great. I mean, not great, but it's validating. It's one of those like,
Mhm.
oh wow, you're like, yeah, you're like out there and you're still a normal person.
Yeah.
I think that's I think that if it makes sense that your business like started thriving when you showed your face because you are so kind and accessible and just like approachable. And it's like, oh, like I think it can get to the point where people think, oh, Dom sub, like, oh, they're cartoon characters, or like they're very um I don't know, like stereotypical versions of it, which could be,
Mhm.
but like, yeah, you're just so personable that it makes it very, very accessible. Like, you're also, forgive me if this is too much judgment, but you're so adorable that it is like, oh my gosh, look at this adorable Dom Sub kink
Oh,
coach.
no, thank you, thank you. But yeah, and even just like sharing more about like my personal life, like how I have kids. Like, you know, obviously I don't share anything about my kids. I don't have them on or anything, but like that attracted a lot of people to me because they were like, "Oh, well, me and my spouse, like, we're trying to like practice BDSM, and we're thinking like, how could we do this when we have kids in the house?" And so they want to ask me like, "Well, how are you able to do this when you have kids in the home?" And um, so just becoming more, you know, open about my personal life. I've been open about, you know, physical issues, health issues, and things like that. And that's just, you know, drawn more people to me too, because, you know, they're able to relate and see that I'm a real person. Because I think if you try to like project this persona that it becomes like unattainable to the everyday person and they think like I can never learn from you, you know, you're already just out there, you know, living the life of BDSM expert and it's so far from where I could ever be. But then once they see like, oh, I'm a normal person with a normal life, I just, you know, have this dom sub relationship and we do a bunch of kinky things and we practice BDSM, you know, then it becomes not as, you know, far out there, I think, for people.
Wow. Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. We'll wrap up here in a bit. I do have some extra questions from the audience that we might take a look at. So we touched on a lot of them, most of them, but what one of my audience members said, "How will Amy, that's me, how will Amy know when it's time for the spanking?"
Yeah. I think you will have to know for yourself when it's time for the spanking. I think
Okay.
this is like the reckoning, like when your reckoning will come. So yeah,
That's
when
right.
you're
Okay. But
when you're ready for your the spanking of your life,
I'll
you'll know.
I'll know when I know. I love that. I'll
Yeah.
just know. There you go. Have that. Okay, oh, here's I think the last one that we'll do is I really liked this question because it is nuanced, and maybe you can just say, "Oh, I teach about that in my class." But the question is, what do you know any specific words or language to offer someone who wants to start a conversation about kink? And I do know the person who asked this, and they are in a relationship. So I imagine they're thinking about that, but maybe you have an answer for that if someone's just curious about it and wants to start a conversation with someone else,
Yeah,
regardless if
that's
they're in a
really good.
partnership.
And I do have a whole course on this about how to help your partner, but it's really those baby steps because you don't want to scare them. And so, again, just some of the language you can use is just like, have you ever thought about doing this? Or just like, have you ever had like a fantasy? What did it look like? What are some of your fantasies? And just starting there. And then one thing I tell people is to use the movie 50 Shades of Grey just as a way to break the ice and just be like, did you ever see that movie? Like, I heard some things about it. Like, we should watch it. I heard it was funny, and then that can kind of be a springboard into things. But yeah, I always say make it about the other person and what they get out of it. Because if they just hear, like, I want more kink in the bedroom, I want BDSM, I want you to be my Dom, or I want you to be my sub, then that's really overwhelming for a person. So, like, make it about them and just be like, I want to know what you want and what you desire. And I want to be the best partner for you, sexually in the bedroom. I want to be able to fulfill all your needs. And I want you to show me and help me do that. And then it becomes more about them and what they get out of it. But definitely just making it lighthearted and fun. Like, I always say, don't have these conversations in the bedroom. Like, have them when you're just having coffee. So it takes that stress out of it. But just kind of dropping little hints, even something as simple as shopping online and, just wanting, to explore different bondage tools and toys and things like that, window shopping, I think, can be a lot of fun.
You're making me think of, I don't know if you've heard of the thing where you take your partner's phone and you go, wedding ring, wedding ring,
Yeah.
wedding ring, and you like make their phone like do the math for you and like start doing that. So you could do
Yeah.
that, like butt plug,
Yeah.
big dildo, big
Nipple
dildo.
clamps. Yeah.
Nipple clamps, yes. Okay, don't, that is not Alessandra's recommendation. That is
Yeah.
my recommendation, but there you go.
Man, I loved our conversation, and if you did too, definitely check out more from Amy at amyvorpal.com. Her last name is spelled Vorpahl. I'll put all her links in the description because she is doing such important, hilarious, and nerdy, heartfelt work. You can also support her on Patreon, and for sure go follow her on Instagram because she shares a ton of just bold, unapologetic goodness over there. So again, go to the description for all of her links. But until next time, keep embracing your power and pleasure through Dom subliving.